Hey there, welcome to this episode, and today we are looking at tips and tricks part 1. Now I'm going to split this into multiple episodes, mainly because there are a lot of shortcuts and hacks, and also I'm finding new ones all the time, so whenever I've got a little group of them, I'll put them together and just make a short video so that it's kind of nice and easy to digest. The first one is Shift and Gate, and you will notice on the screen there, it is turning Bank A gate off and on because we are currently on Bank A. So if we want to enable or disable gate for all of the samples inside of one bank, we can do that. Particularly handy because when you import samples, they come with like gate mode enabled by default. And if you're like me, I find I'm constantly turning that off. And that is just a very easy, quick way of getting rid of them all at the same time. The other thing that you can do here is shift and BPM sync in exactly the same way. So we can turn that off and on across an entire bank. So you want to sync all of your samples to the global tempo of the project. You can do that with just a shift and a BPM sync, button here. Very, very quick. The next one is for your start and end. So we're going to go to start and end window here. This I use all of the time. I do a lot of sample chopping, and when you have a loop, something playing like this, you come across with your start marker. It's pretty easy to find your starting point, and you'll have noticed if you have like loop enabled, as you twist Control 1 here and find your start point, that sample keeps like skipping back to the beginning, which is really handy for finding your start point. But when it comes to Control 3 and dialing in your endpoint, it can be a bit tedious if you've got a long sample because you end up having to wait for this sample to come all the way around. Then maybe you've got to tweak it a little bit more, try and get it in the perfect place. And the shortcut for that is to press the roll button here. And when we press the roll button, it's going to play a small sample or a small portion of the sample towards the endpoint here so that we can hear it. Really, really handy. And of course, we can shift that along. And it works, of course, even when you're zoomed in, so you're trying to be really neat. It will make it easier to dial in that endpoint without having to, listen to that whole loop. So that's a really, really useful one. Let's exit out of here. The next one I have is listening to pads or selecting pads silently. So let's say you're doing a bit of a DJ set, you've got something playing. You want to tweak a pad, do something to it, its start and end, whatever. But you don't want to play it audibly to the audience. So if I play this drum loop here, let's say I now want to go back to that kind of melodic jazzy horn sample we were just playing around with. I want to be able to select it and play around with its start and end points, but I don't want you to be able to hear that as I select it. I press push and enter here, and you will notice as I do this, we jump back over to where we just were. Very, very handy stuff. And of course that works with any of our drum sounds. I could silently select any of these and then do all of my tweaks and stuff. So another good one to remember. Let's stop the music. The next one, really, really simple. I like being able to mute pads, and I've shown this in other videos, but I'm going to show it again here just to kind of keep it, ingrained in your mind. When I've got like a track or something I built here, and I just want to strip out and like take the drums out of the equation or something when I'm trying to just listen, it's very handy to be able to mute a pad, and it's very simple. You just do shift and reverse. Whenever these turn white like this, you can mute them, and as soon as you press red, it is muted. If we do it with this drum loop, lets us just mute an individual pad. Now you can automate that, you can grab multiple pads at the same time, there's a bunch of other stuff, but the very basic function of shift and reverse to mute a pad I find very very handy. So the next one that we've got is a pitch tip. So if we go to pitch and speed here, I have like a snare drum on pad 3, and if I play around with the pitch, can hear me pitching it there. If I just want to reset that very quickly back to 0, you can press delete. Just saves a little bit of time, saves you having to come in and manually do this and try and find the 0. You can just do it a lot quicker by pressing delete. So for the final one, what I'm going to do here, let's exit. I'm just going to turn my volume down. This one is a folder diving tip. So if we do shift here and import export, let's say we want to bring some samples in from our SD card. It's a sample. I'm going to go to drums here, and I'm going to use these 90s drums. If I go to kick drums and I'm in here, What I know about this folder is that there are too many samples for my taste in here, so you can like scroll for hours on the side of this thing. So if I scroll and I scroll and I scroll, let's say this is us looking for a sample, finding the perfect kick drum, and as you can see, it goes on for a long time. But let's say I'm down into the hundreds here. 104, I find my perfect kick drum. I load that into my set, onto one of my pads. However, to get back out and to start looking for other samples, I've now got to go up 104 levels back the other way, which becomes incredibly tedious and very boring. And what you can do is you can press exit and then press the push and enter button. And what you will notice is we have jumped back to the top of the kick drums folder, so it goes back to that folder but takes you right back to the top of the menu. So of course we could scroll down again, or we could simply come out and find some other drums in here, you know, whatever other sample sounds that we want. So keep that one in mind. I use that again all of the time, because when you've got these really long folders, it's just so much quicker to do exit, push enter, and be back to the top of the folder. So that's it for today's episode. Tips and tricks part 1. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Take care.